Right, welcome to the March edition of Poetricity Live, where we're continuing our exploration of the flow framework, which is designed to allow us to use flow so that we can get more done with less effort. Um, and today we're going to kick off with this particular piece. Right, so this is called Creative High. I am that I am is enough. Flying high in the sky, my balloon soars, no longer entangled by sandbags of thought. I can't be held down anymore. The view from above reveals a small, the obstacles that once ruled my world. Up here is the place I'm now creating from. I'll read that again. Creative high. I am that I am is enough. Flying high in the sky, my balloon soars, no longer entangled by sandbags of thought. I can't be held down anymore. The view from above reveals as small the obstacles that once ruled my world. Up here is the place I'm now creating from.
Mm. You know, the first bit when you go, "I am that I am," that reminds me of what who that bit of Moses in the burning bush.
Yeah. That kind of no, I hear that, and that probably is a slight link back to it. But what I'm trying to do is transpose that into the human context.
Yeah, the word freedom just keeps coming to me when I see this, reading this.
Okay, say more.
Just feeling free to be me.
I like that.
You
Okay,
know,
and
no
if you're
more,
free
no
to
more,
be,
no more false self. No need for the false self.
I hear that.
No need for the mask.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know who I am. I am enough, and I'm free to be me.
I love that. I love that. And there's that idea the balloon soars, isn't it? Like,
Yeah,
it just. I hear that. Well,
and no longer held down by anything.
yeah. No, I hear that.
No longer allowing any barriers to be or obstacles to be in my way,
Yeah.
or
No,
anybody else's opinion to be in my way.
I like that.
To be precise,
I like
anybody
that.
else's opinions and thoughts.
I like that.
You
Yeah,
know,
I like that you brought that in actually, because that's not necessarily implicit in the piece, but it is relevant because there are thoughts from you and there are thoughts from other people, and there are words from other people that you may apply thoughts to or evaluate or hold in high regard. What else is coming out there?
I get that there's some interlink with the creator and the creator and creator and creativity and us that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um oh, how do I put it? Um so especially when it says up there is the place I am now creating from. It's that link that I don't know, that link that there's something between that link between the person and the creator. Oh,
Yeah. No,
what's
I think I hear I kind of get what you're coming from on that. Um, and if it, so the idea is that we as human beings have been endowed with the ability to create. So we have been created and we have the ability to create. The context of the piece is really talking about the best conditions under which to do that creating.
Okay.
I don't know if I give you that context, does that open it up any better for you?
Um, you know the bit that really jumps out of me is when it says no longer entangled by sandbags of thought, I
Mm,
can't be held down anymore. And
mm,
that suggests like, when sometimes you suppress who you are, you
mm,
suppress your creativity because of all the other vo thoughts and voices and opinions and all that. And it's almost like, you found some freedom or some freedom has come from somewhere and you're now aware made you're more aware of all the outside voices, and if you sort of said, I don't want to, I can block you out because I can just do my thing, and me and God, my God will tell me, will direct me to what I need to do.
mm. I like that. I like that. And you are speaking to the heart of it. It's really this whole idea that the best environment for creativity is one in which we're not allowing thoughts, either be it,
Yes.
as you've rightly stated, your own thoughts about yourself, your own self-opinion, or your evaluation or holding in esteem negative opinions of other people about your abilities or lack of it, to hold you down. Obviously, that can work in the reverse. People can encourage you and people can call out the
Yeah.
creative in you, which then obviously supports you. So the idea is the sandbags of thought are thoughts that don't support that creativity, effectively, is what we're saying. Um, so the idea is that if you let go of all the baggage of thought that
Yeah.
stands in the way of your creativity or stands in the way of your belief in your own creativity, then you become free to create.
Yeah.
And from that place, you're able to create, like you rightly said, whatever you're inspired to create by that divine kind of inspiration, or however people choose to frame that. Because I generally believe that creativity is an expression of an inherent creative energy that exists, that then you give space to flow through you and give
Yeah.
expression through by whatever you do, say, or whatever. So that kind of is where that is coming from. Anything else pop up from you as I kind of gave that?
I think that's it.
Yeah,
I think that's it.
yeah. And I think really the other thing that's interesting to call out is this idea of the view from above reveals the small. The idea is that if you take that perspective of going to that higher perspective of being aware of the creativity that exists within you and your recognition that the only thing stopping you are thoughts, not anything physical or not anything that's real. They're just thoughts that's stopping you. When you let go of those, then you have that perspective where you're able to see what's possible. And therefore, all the things that seemed like obstacles appear small because now
Yeah.
you're taking a higher perspective.
Our perspective.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. But also, I was thinking, when we think about creativity, right? I
Mm.
mean, what is creativity?
It's a good question. What do you think it is?
That's a
Give
good
me your
question.
give me your version and I'll see if I can build on it.
Creativity. I think creativity is when one uses their imaginations and their mind to express. You bring forth, you express something, you express what you're carrying in your mind. So the created something in you, you've created something in your thoughts, within you, you bring it, you give expression to it outwardly for others to see.
I like that. I like that. I really like that. And what I love about what you've defined is that you've really opened up what creativity is. Which is it's not just creating a piece of art, it's not just writing a poem. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Creativity could be how you choose to cook that meal that day because the
yeah,
ingredients that you normally use is not all there. So you replace this with this, or you do it in a different order.
yeah,
Creativity really can be all sorts, right? It's just
yeah,
ways of doing, ways of being, ways of expressing that have the freedom to evolve, freedom to do
yeah,
something. And I like what you said about it, then we give it form so that it can be either bless us or bless other people or both, right? So
yeah,
it's so I mean you could be creative in your driving. You could be driving somewhere and then realize there's a traffic jam. You'd have to be creative as to how you find a new way to get
yeah,
to where you're getting
yeah,
to. So creativity shows up in so many different, which is why it always amuses me when people choose to say I'm not creative. It's like you can't actually survive in this world without being creative because
You
every
have to
day
be creative. Yeah,
we're faced with different scenarios. We have to adapt. We have to pivot. We have to do all sorts. That's all creativity.
yeah. Because creativity to me is something is solution.
Yeah, yeah. It's just ways of which is why what's interesting to me is before I used to think, oh well, I loved maths back in the day, and maths was my favorite subject. They actually suggested I should go and study at uni, but didn't because perception then was people study maths at uni go crazy. But anyway, so then I came up and then poetry found me, as they say. And it's kind of like I used to think there were two different things, but actually they're not because in maths, it's creativity. It's creativity with number, creativity with concepts, creativity. What I really enjoyed about maths is looking at a problem and then having to find a way to solve it.
Yes,
So
yes,
that's creativity. So all I'm doing in poetry is using words rather than numbers and
yes.
finding a way to say something that transfers or gets people to think or reflect on things. So yeah, I love that kind of exploration of creativity, really.
Because I love clothes, and I see
Mm,
creativity
mm,
in the way I combine different clothes
right.
together.
Yes.
And to me, especially when I was much younger and everything,
Mm,
I never cared
mm,
about what anybody.
mm,
And this is where me and my parents used to be like this, because everything they bought me to wear, I would get take a pair of scissors to it and either make it a little bit shorter or cut something or sew something on it to make a bit of different style. I wasn't scared to stand out or to make people think, oh, what's she up to? And and the same thing used to be with my hair. The different colors, the different styles I used to have when I was much younger. I've tamed a lot of things down since I've
yeah,
got older and had children,
mm.
you know. But that creativity, if it's there for certain things, it never goes. It
I,
never
I
goes.
I love that. I love that.
Never, it never goes. I
Yeah,
mean, at
no, I
my
hear that.
age now, I still look at clothes and think, uh, and then I say to myself, I say to myself, well, I have to be a bit more measured because of my age and all that. But that doesn't stop me from being creative. I have to be even more creative now.
Right. I love that. I love that. And there's something you called out there as you were saying that's worth going back to reflect on is this idea. And again, this comes to this piece we've just read. The sandbags of thought is, oh, people might think I'm crazy, or people might,
Yeah,
what would people
yeah,
say about me? And then that begins to dull your creativity because you are now suppressing that innate intuitive desire to create
yeah,
by considering what other people might say or the fact that other people don't get it or people might not get it. But it's appreciated that everything that's now considered a trend or a fashion, somebody had to have the courage to not allow those thoughts stop them from doing it.
yeah, yeah,
Do you see what I'm saying? So
yeah,
so and I love that you're recognizing that innate creativity has always been there, expressing itself in your fashion, expressing itself in how you do your hair, and now expressing itself through flowers, expressing do some all sorts of different
yeah.
things
Different
and ways.
things. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
Right. Okay. This one is called Gifted into It. So, gifted into it. What a gift. Intuition at your service, a wide open channel, eavesdropping on universal whispers, messages carrying special meaning. Did you ponder it? Already heard it. Your message is waiting. Universe special delivery. What synchronicity? I'll read that again. Gifted into it. What a gift. Intuition at your service. A wide open channel. Eavesdropping on universal whispers. Messages carrying special meaning. Did you ponder it? Already heard it. Your message is waiting. Universe special delivery. What synchronicity?
This is going to sound strange. I would call it the spy within.
I love it. It is not strange at all. It is literally that. That's brilliant.
The spy
Tell,
within.
tell, tell me more. Tell me more.
Um, I see that like it's almost like, you know, we have the logic,
Mm-hmm.
we have the unconscious,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes the conscious and the unconscious will meet.
Mm-hmm.
But the intuition is something else,
Mm.
deeper.
Yeah.
And that is like sometimes the true, that's telling you the truth, even though sometimes you don't hear.
Mm.
That's the one hiding in the corner, whispering to you,
Mm.
don't do that. Or have you seen, don't, that pointing out things or trying to give you, download things to you, but you're too busy in the conscious and the unconscious to sometimes hear that side. But that's the bit they call it gut feeling sometimes, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah, that's another word for it. Yeah.
Yeah, that gut feeling that you shouldn't ignore.
Yeah. No, I hear that. I hear
But
that. That
it is like a spy because it's picking up lots of things that
yeah. Depending on who you talk to, some people would say it's the subconscious. Depending on who you talk to. Depending on other people, they would say something deeper, like you rightfully said. Some people would even say it's spiritual in nature. So that there's different contexts in which to view it in. So what else is coming up for you on that?
I think that is I think we can we can miss all this valuable communication
Mm-hmm.
quite easily if we're especially if we're distracted by so many too many outside influences. We're
Mm.
too distracted with, sometimes when you we live if we don't sit with ourselves, you'll never hear this. You'll never hear what's going on.
I like that. I like that you're now even pulling in kind of the idea of, okay, for us to be more open to what's being pointed to here, we
Yeah,
need
yeah,
that.
yeah. So if we're not, sometimes you just have to sit in the stillness, in the silence,
Mm.
with the self to hear,
I love
or
that.
or to know or to decipher what's been said to you, and so forth. But if you don't give that, if you don't let that opportunity, if you don't take that opportunity to do that, you're missing valuable information.
Yeah. No, I hear that. And I think one of the things that people struggle with this is that they think only special people have this ability to pick up on those kind of signals or but you're right. Rather than the idea that it's because it's special people, it might be those are just the people who are taking the opportunity to listen. Those are the people who have a lifestyle that allows them to have that quiet space to be able to hear these things.
But I think sometimes even though we might have that quiet space, I think a lot of us don't are afraid of the quiet space.
Ah,
Are afraid to sit in the quiet space because sometimes when you sit in the quiet space, if you hear things, you might have to engage, and if you don't, and if it's something you don't want to engage with, you rather avoid. So you pander to the distraction, so you don't have to. That's a way of avoiding.
Oh, that's a beautiful praise. You pander to the. I have to write that down. Sorry. You pander to the distractions. That is just beautiful. Yeah, no, I hear you. So, and to a certain degree, we've been conditioned like that because if you think about the way social media and everything else is, and even the word entertainment and everything else, it's the idea of being caught in something else that's holding you, stimulating you, and we've been conditioned that it's almost like life is empty if we don't have those things there.
Yeah, and then we try to fill that void. We think it's a void, so we try to
Yeah,
fill it
indeed, indeed.
rather than just sit in it
Yeah,
and think to say, well, what can I discover about myself
yeah, no,
or about what's going on by just sitting in this space?
yeah, no, I love that. And again, that's one of the reasons why I actually do this event is to give people an opportunity to give themselves the permission to stop and think about some of the things that we don't tend to give space to think about during our day to day. It's just a space for reflection, and the
Yeah,
poetry really is to pull people into that space of reflection, um, because maybe on their own they wouldn't just do it.
yeah.
Um,
I know about being and I know about that pandering to distractions because that's exactly what I've done a lot of times
mm,
when I don't want to face silence. I used to
mm,
think silence was just awful. You know, you sit in silence and you know, but I recently completed an 8 week mindfulness course, which was
mhm,
very deep, very
mm,
deep, and the instructor was very good. Online it was, but it was superb,
mm,
and that helped. That really helped me along the way, along with the stuff that I'm doing with you. That keep
mm,
notes. I keep my notes, and together I've been able to combine it, and I've been able to not see silence as suffering.
mm,
I now see silence as a way of getting to know myself,
mm.
of connecting with the things that is in me that I've never given time
Yeah, I love that.
to see what's dormant, that's been lying there dormant.
And I tell you what's beautiful about this is that our next piece is called self-aware.
Oh,
So again, this is the power of intuition at work, right? Stuff that we can't manufacture, but there's if we are open and sensitive to those guidance and those messages and that
yeah,
come to us, we can appear to be almost like you say, the spy within, right? Because it's like, how would I know that's been happening? How would I know we're gonna need this now? Do you see what I'm saying? I don't. But as long as I'm following the guidance that I'm receiving from intuition, then things can align in a way that serves everybody without me having to consciously in my conscious mind know that that's what's needed. So again,
yeah.
that's another space opened up when we follow that intuitive direction. um let me see if there's anything else for you on this gifted intuit bit.
um oh, you know, I like that line, universe is special delivery,
Mm,
because I suppose that's another way of that small voice when the Father God is talking, or the Spirit is talking to you,
mm,
that's that small voice that's revealing something to you,
yeah,
or no, or sometimes if you've prayed for something and you're waiting for answer from God, that's where you would hear it.
no, I hear that. And I think what's interesting as well is this idea that really I think we've been conditioned to look for something spectacular as the means
Yeah,
by which messages that are maybe divine in nature reach us. but actually, when you think about it, a lot of it is very subtle. A lot of it, like you've said earlier, requires us to actually find quiet places where we can hear, because it's not going to be shouting at us. It's not going to. Um, and what's even more interesting about this piece is it ends with the line, "What synchronicity?" And as if we've managed it, the synchronicity of this is that we're now about to talk about self-awareness that you've just talked about. That's synchronicity in action. Because how am I going to know that's something that's going to be helpful based on the experience you're having? I don't. But by being open to intuition, that synchronicity has now come about, where we're now about to move into something that is relevant for you in that regard. So again, this is my reasoning why I think if you just follow that intuitive voice, you would appear supernatural to most, because you will be positioned for things that most people will be going, "Oh, how did you know that?" Or how come that happened at that point when this was needed? Because you don't need to know. You just need to follow that gentle guidance. Okay. So this piece is called self-aware. Being aware of the self that is aware. That is where the journey of transformation begins. The genesis of every evolution from within. Where do you stand to observe, seen from the inside out, that which parades as the self, the object separate from the subject, not possible without the space, space to stand, space to see, space to think, space to be aware that you are the one aware of the illusion of the single self. I'm going to read that again. Self-aware. Being aware of the self that is aware. That is where the journey of transformation begins. The genesis of every evolution from within. Where do you stand to observe, seeing from the inside out, that which parades as the self, the object separate from the subject, not possible without space, space to stand, space to see, space to think, space to be aware that you are the one aware of the illusion of the single self.
Well, I don't think there can be any transformation without self-awareness.
I love the way you started that off just like that. Let's just get to the bottom of it.
But I don't think, you know, how can you, it's almost like, like sometimes people can do things and people can say, you really speak horribly to people, you don't see it yourself, but somebody else sees it,
Mm,
right? And they tell you about it. And,
mm,
and you keep hearing people say that you speak abruptly to other people, but
mm,
you don't think that you do.
mm.
And then one day something happens and you start to really investigate. And then you come to something brings you to the awareness that you actually do.
Mm.
Then you can do something about it, then, can't you?
No, I hear that. I do hear that. Yeah. And what you said there brings in several elements of it. And some of it is something you've said before, that sometimes you don't hear because you don't want to hear, right? So there's that element of there's something there, and then you get some people, like you say, tell you this, that, and the other, and you're still not ready to hear. But somehow, someday, something happens, and now you're ready to hear.
Yeah.
And then you hear it and go, oh, okay, yeah. No, I hear what you're saying there. Anything else?
Because I think, once you're once you are aware of what's like for me, I can let me as well. I'm more aware of what's going on in here
Mm,
and how the mind works,
mm-hmm,
the tricks it plays.
mm-hmm,
I'm more aware of that than I ever used than I used to be. And because I'm more aware of that, when the mind starts its stupidness, I know I don't have to follow. When all the stresses and the baggage comes, I can sit on the riverbank and watch the whole lot go past me and wave bye-bye. You know what I mean? I don't have to. I know that if I jump in the water and engage, I'm in trouble. Because once I jump in and engage, the mind's going to start telling me, oh, it's going to take me down avenues that I don't want to go down.
I hear that.
And then you get yourself into more and more and more stress. You can't relax. You exist that, what if, and you get, you know, that's where the anxiety and all that comes in. But if you can just let things watch the mind, I can watch my mind, watch the things float by. If I want to engage, I can. But if I don't want to, I don't have to. So I can be like a observer. So I can now more observe what's going on in my head than before I used to engage the whole time and then wondered why I was an anxious person sometimes. So I'm
Yeah,
engaging in stuff that really and truly I could have easily have just let pass. I didn't know that I could do that.
yeah, yeah.
I didn't know I could do that. Now I know I can do that. I'm aware that I can do that. So that's what I do.
I love that.
That makes me a happier person and and a less anxious person.
Wow, I love that. So this. If we're in a church setting, we'll say preach, sister, right? Um, in other settings, we'll say drop the mic.
Yeah,
Basically what you've done is just described exactly what the piece is speaking into in a way that's practical for people to hear. This is real. This helps. This is a fundamental element of our how our experiences are created. So to dive into that a bit deeper is this idea that because you have disidentified with your mind, so this is the bit we in the piece called space, right? Not possible without the space. What you've done is so this is the piece where it says the object separate from the subject, right? So you
yeah,
are the one who's able to observe what the mind is doing. So you are not the mind. You are the one who's observing the mind. Now,
yeah,
because you create that identity separation, you are not your mind. You have the space to then stand on the riverbank and go, oh, what's happening with the mind now? Oh, the mind is concerned about this. Oh, the mind is this and about that. The mind is that and then that. So you can, it's space to see, space to think and be aware that, oh, this is why this is happening. This is what is happening. And here's the other bit of awareness. I don't have to go along with the ride. I don't have to jump in the river, like you say. I can sit where I am and just observe it be so, right? And let it pass. And as a result, you don't get that triggering of your nervous system where you begin to experience things that are not necessary because you know that those things are not real. They're just thoughts that your mind is bringing to you. But if you invest in those thoughts, if you believe in those thoughts, if you connect your energy to those thoughts, then you
yeah.
begin to experience what those things hold. Um, and that is really what my work is about, is helping people see that.
Yeah, because you can experience a lot of suffering, when you
Yeah,
when you go engaging with thought, you can experience a lot of suffering, unnecessary, really unnecessary.
yeah. And that's what I'm trying to help people avoid. Is that you don't have to have all this suffering if you just recognize you're not your mind and you don't have to follow and go with everything your mind comes up. Because they've actually done research. The mind is wrong 80% of the time. So 80% of the time, the stuff is trying to get us to buy into is not even true. It's not real. But it creates, like you say, the suffering nonetheless within your system and within your body, because your body don't know the difference between this real or not real. If your mind engages it and you connect with it and you believe it, if I said to you, oh,
Mhm.
your son, there's an earthquake now and your son is caught in it, if you begin to believe that, your body and everything about you will begin to experience what it's
Yeah,
like. to have a child who's caught up in something like that. But then
Yeah.
when you hear from it and hear it's fine, it's like, oh, but you've had the suffering and it wasn't real, but you suffered nonetheless. Do you see my
Yeah.
point? So it's
Yeah.
kind of it really is something that if people really get to understand it, can really, really improve people's quality of life.
Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest things that's happened to me within the year, the last year, is that to really I really come to grips with the fact that I don't have to engage with what goes through my mind. I
Mm,
really don't have to, and that I have a choice here.
mm, I love that. And I think we've pretty much covered that piece really. It's yeah, it, it is pivotal really to the work. Right. Synergy. This is called synergy. Synergy of energies, seeing what could become of these when they come together and fuse, creating effects beyond which what each one could, sinking energies to create exponential juice when every part pulls in the same direction by doing what each one does the best. That is the power of synergy, the teamwork that makes the dream work. I'll read that again, synergy. Synergy of energies, seeing what could become of these when they come together and fuse, creating effects beyond what each one could, sinking energies to create exponential use when every part pulls in the same direction by doing what each one does the best. That is the power of synergy, the teamwork that makes the dream work.
Well, two words come out for me: alignment
I like that. Yeah, go on.
and unseen forces.
Okay. I like where your mind is today, man. You're just pulling this stuff out. And of course, I've got to ask, tell me more.
Um, alignment, because I think well, synergy is about working in harmony,
Mm,
and alignment. To be alignment with somebody can bring unity.
mm-hmm.
So I think I see harmony and unity, and when all that comes together, it can produce such wonderful. It can be expressed. It can express wonderful things.
Yeah. No.
I suppose that's where the teamwork comes in, because if you got a group of people who are trying to achieve something,
Mm,
without synergy, without alignment, without harmony, without unity, they ain't going nowhere.
yeah. I hear that. I hear that. And in a way, this piece actually jumps off the back of the line of the previous piece, which says that you're the one aware of the illusion of the single self. And I think the idea is because we see ourselves as individual selves, we often don't see the bigger picture that says that even though we appear to be individual selves, we are also a collective self. And that's where the synergy element
Oh,
comes in. Um, so I think one of the best ways I can really put that, and I was thinking about this because of a message I'm about to preach in a couple of weeks' time, when I was doing the study for that, I began to realize that this point is so important that we carry the metaphor for it in our very being. So if you look at your own body, your body is a synergy. Your body is a synergy of different parts that make up your body. Remember that piece of text that says, if the whole body were an eye, where would
yeah,
this be? If the whole body, do you see what I'm saying? So that
yeah,
there is a reason why, to make you as a person who can function as a person, takes different parts doing their bits
yeah,
efficiently and effectively for you
yeah,
to be able to operate. And then at the macro level, the same thing with us as human beings is finding the parts of different people who have different gifts show up in different ways that we work with, and everybody using what they're best at creates something that would not have otherwise existed, and beyond that create an effect that is more than just 1 + 1 is 2. It's like a multiplied exponential factor of what you can
Yeah.
produce.
Yeah. Mm. Wow. So it's like a sentence. See what they become together and fuse,
Mm, yeah.
creating effects beyond what each one could. Yes, that's beyond what the one person.
Mm,
And to me, that unity where everyone's pulling in the same direction.
mm, yeah. And what's interesting about that is, and that's why I put that next line after, by doing what each
Each
does the
the
best.
best. Yeah.
Right. And so because some people think unity means uniformity. So it means that, oh, well, we all have to be the same in order to pull in the same direction. No,
No.
we, in fact, it's better that we're different. And then we bring what makes us different together to push it together in the same
Mm.
direction. So
Yeah.
the same direction is
Yeah.
unity of purpose, but difference of function in how we bring that purpose about.
Yeah. Difference in function. Mm. Yeah.
Anything else from that?
I like that sentence. That is the power of energy. Because it is a it is a it, you know it is an invisible energy.
Mm-mm.
You can't see it, but you can feel it. It's like,
Yeah.
you can't see the driving force, but you
Mm.
feel the driving force when you're all going. You feel driving force when you're all working towards something. You feel it in your being.
No, I hear that. I hear that. Yeah. 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 And that's why it opens with synergies of energies. That is kind of because we are energies in manifestation effectively.
Yeah,
That's what we are. We give form to energy that would otherwise be invisible. We give form to it. Um,
and
hold
that's
on.
why if you're working in a group and somebody has a bad energy, we
Mm,
can pick up on that bad
yeah.
energy as you can pick up that person's carrying a bad energy
Mm, mm. No, I hear that.
or energy that's out of line with the rest.
Out of alignment. So going back to
Yeah,
what you were saying about
yeah,
alignment. Yeah.
yeah.
No, I hear that. It's beautiful. Okay. Anything else on that before we move on?
No, I think that's it.
Right. This next piece is called Mundane.
One day.
Mundane or magical? Who gets to decide which label it wears, how regal it looks when it appears, gracing the catwalk of my mind with celebrations to match? Mundane or magical? Who gets to decide which label it wears, how regal it looks when it appears, gracing the catwalk of my mind with celebrations to match?
When I think of the word mundane, right, I just think of something repetitive and boring.
I hear you.
That's what I think of, something repetitive and boring.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't like repetitive and boring. I really don't. I'm trying to run away, and I try and run away from that sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
and feel like I have to do something to change that. I have to do something to change. that. Where really and truly, it's my perception of it is what I need to change rather than anything else.
I like that. Like you're really on it today. Yeah.
Am I?
Yeah, you're really on it today.
I've been sitting with myself this week or the past week. That's why.
You're
That's
really
what.
on it.
That's probably what it is. I've been sitting with myself a lot the last
Yeah.
couple of days. Yeah,
No,
I've been spending. I've been enjoying the silence times.
yeah. It's a powerful thing. And it accelerates creativity, which is probably what we're saying now, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So I don't know. Um, I suppose each day is different, I think. And
Hmm.
sometimes, I'm a planner. I like to plan. I like to plan what I'm going to do, or have some skeleton plan of what I'm doing each day. Rough. It's very rough and it's very flexible. But sometimes, if I have a day where I haven't planned anything or nothing's been planned for me,
Hmm.
I start thinking, oh, how boring. When there's things that I could do, but the first thing I think, oh, how boring. Today is boring. And I might start think of, oh, it's boring. There's nothing to do. And then I after a while, something will just come into my head, and then I'm dressed and oh yes, I must go and see so and so. Oh, I pick up the phone to this and that. But then initially, it's this is boring. This is boring, especially when it's quiet and it's miserable outside. Oh, this is boring. This is There's nothing going on here, and I want especially if you feel like you're ready for action, and then there's nothing to go and you know. So
I love that.
Monday is it's boring and repetitive. I don't like.
Yeah. No, I
So it's
love
almost like I have to go and create your own. You have to. Is it when it says mundane or magical? I don't understand where the magical comes in.
Yeah. And that is the point, right? The point is whether something to you is mundane or magical. So magical we're using to the not boring is magical, right? The oh wow, that's beautiful, or that's wonderful, oh, I think that's exciting, blah blah blah. Whatever it is that we celebrate, as opposed to how we treat what we think is mundane. That's what magical represents, right? So and you've already that's why I said you were on it. You've already called it. It is not a reality. It is a perception and evaluation of the mind. And really, if
Yeah,
you begin to study that and begin to look at it, you will find out that it's not the activity itself that is always mundane or always magical. It's the way your mind perceives it. So you've already given us an example. You said, if I've planned something, it's not
yeah,
mundane. But if I don't plan it, then it's mundane. It could be the same activity that shows up in a planned sequence and it's not mundane. But if it doesn't show up in a planned sequence, it is mundane. So again, that is just making you aware. Going back to we're talking about space. When you have the space to observe the mind, you begin to find these things out and recognize, okay, this only feels mundane because
yeah,
it's not because there's this thing that makes this thing, but this is a construct of the mind. So what
yeah,
is it about this thing that's making it feel mundane? And you've already given us a clue. Okay, maybe I can find something to do that will make it feel more magical. I could, do you know what I'm saying? There's something I could do. I'll give you an example. I was recently I was poet in residence at a retreat, 4-day retreat. And one of the activities in that retreat was we were going to take a walk so it was in a big farm that had a lot of nature in it. So so the exercise was we were going to take very slow and measured steps. So rather than just walk
yeah.
around, we're going to take very slow and measured steps and observe what's there. Now, what's interesting is the path we took I'd already taken about twice already,
Okay.
right? So when I took them, you could say they were somewhat mundanish, right? But when we took that, it was measured very slow, and we were mindful. So that's the right word. We were mindful of what was around us. All of
Yeah,
a sudden, it became magical. It's the same pathway, but because there was this measured, mindful appreciation of what was there, when I came back and I was having a debrief with one of the other facilitators, she was taking notes. Like, you got all that from just looking at the nature we've just seen now. Do you see what I'm saying? So that those insights, and we're talking about creativity, creating the space for creativity. The creativity came forth because there was a mindful presence of being in those moments and observing what was there. And that created a spurt of creativity. And that is the point, that to become aware that when you're getting this sense that something is mundane, don't dismiss it.
yeah,
Actually sit and think, okay, what's my mind making of this?
yeah,
Why is it coming across as mundane? Okay, what could be magical about it? How could it be magical?
yeah. How can it be magical?
So anything else come up?
I love it. I love that gracing the catwalk of my mind. You can just see you can just see it just going part, taking a bow and a bit of a spin and lingering, you know, wanting you to engage with it, but we got choices. We got choices here.
I love, I love that. I love that. Yeah, that was really just so just to be clear to people that this is all happening in your mind. This is just something that is a mind activity. And the idea being that if a model were strutting their stuff and they had a certain outfit on or whatever, there's the evaluation. Is this, oh yes, brilliant, brilliant, wonderful,
Yeah,
wonderful. Don't get that. Oh, no, I don't think much of that. Do you see what I'm saying? It's that
yeah,
whole idea of almost like the activities of the day are parading before your mind, and your
yeah.
mind is judging it to be either mundane or magical. Right, let's do this final piece. This one is called Boiling the Sea. There was a man who wanted some tea. He set to work to boil the sea, begging the sun to turn up the heat. Exasperated, he sighed, "This won't work for me. What a load of bother for a cup of tea." There was a man who wanted some tea, dipped his cup repeatedly into the sea, boiled his pot by the side of the sea, elated and refreshed, sipping his cup of tea, with a cup in hand for one who sought to boil the sea. I read that again. Boiling the sea. There was a man who wanted some tea. He set to work to boil the sea, begging the sun to turn up the heat. Exasperated, he sighed, "This won't work for me. What a load of bother for a cup of tea." There was a man who wanted some tea, dipped his cup repeatedly into the sea, boiled his pot by the side of the sea, elated and refreshed, sipping his cup of tea, with a cup in hand for one who sought to boil the sea.
I don't know what's going on in that one.
I like that. If you knew what was going on, what would it be?
I don't even know. Somebody who wanted to do something.
Yeah, go on. And then,
Somebody who wanted to do something or trying to do something, and then he realized that this ain't working.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and he kept trying to do it instead of looking for an alternative way
Yeah,
to do the thing.
yeah.
He kept repeating. He kept going and going in the same way, getting the same results. And I think he was wondering why he was getting the same results. But I
I like
think
that.
towards the end, I think he kind of got it.
I can see how you've arrived at that conclusion. So
Yeah.
that is one way of interpreting it, that it's the same man. But if the other man was a different man, what's the difference between the two men?
I took it as the same man. Is it?
I know. That's why
Yeah.
I pointed it out. But I mean, it works. But let's assume it's different men. What would that be telling us?
People do things in different ways, isn't it?
Right. And the conclusion that one person reached, someone else trying a different way reached a different conclusion. So is the conclusion absolute? Because that same guy, the first guy, could go around the world saying, "Don't bother, you can't get a cup of tea because you can't boil the sea."
Yeah.
And there's another man who go, "Oh yes, you can," and he goes around the world going, "Oh yes, you can get a cup of tea from the sea." What's the difference in the way those two people have approached that task?
One was more creative than the other.
Creativity, yes. One looked at the obstacle and decided, okay, here's a way to do it. Yes, I love that.
Um, one tried and the other one tried and gave up quicker.
Yeah, yeah. So one gave up, and the other one goes, "Oh, what if you did
Pers-
it this way?
yeah, persevered.
Yeah,
And
let's try it. Let's try it this way." And the key difference between the two is that actually it's doing the smallest thing you can do. That's really all it is. So the other guy thinks I've got to boil the whole sea to get hot enough water to make a cup of tea. The other one goes, well, if all I need is a cup of tea, I just need to boil a cup of water to get a cup of tea.
yeah. So sometimes you don't. Sometimes it's not the big things that you have to do. Is the little. So sometimes it's just looking at the little. It's not dismissing the little, the simple ways to do things.
Right. So those are all elements of this whole thing. Is that so? Here's the other thing that sometimes happens: you're trying to do something, and your mind tells you can't do it because your mind goes to the biggest possible. You haven't even done one little part yet. It's telling you and scaring you with the big thing. It's like,
Yeah,
oh well, I can't do that big thing, so I won't bother starting. But if you actually reverse that around and go, okay, what is the smallest, littlest thing I can do right now? Right. So
yeah,
that's the equivalent
yeah,
of going, oh, I can dip my cup in the sea and get a
yeah,
cup of water. Then I can create a fire and boil that. And then I can put a bit of, bag of tea in it. And then there you go. I've got a cup of tea. And the guy who's frustrated and trying to boil the sea, I can even have an extra cup for him because all I need to do is I don't need to boil the whole sea. I just need a cup of water.
yeah,
Mm,
yeah. And I think sometimes sometimes opportunities come
mm,
and we look at the opportunity, the big picture,
mm.
and then we walk away from opportunities that really and truly would have been good for us. I know because I've been there.
Mm.
That could have been good because I looked at boiling the sea instead of boiling the cup, getting a cup of,
Yeah, no, it happens to all of us. You look at the big thing, go, how am I going to do that?
yeah,
And then you just freeze and you say, oh, that's not me. But
yeah,
actually, no, yeah, you can, you can. Um, yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, I remember when I had the opportunity to apply for a role as poet in residence at a particular charity that was looking for, where's a foundation, they were looking for a poet in residence. And I dismissed myself from it because I thought, well, I'm not a trained poet. I haven't done much this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. I heard they announced it on BBC TV. So I'm thinking, well, they're looking for big people doing big things, and it's not going to be me. and I just dismissed it. My Yvonne said, "Go for it, have a look. You're a poet, aren't you?" Nah, they're not looking for people like me. So I dismissed myself from it.
Yeah.
And it's only when I went back to 2 weeks later, I thought, well, let me have a look at this. Intuition, the voice of intuition said, go back and have a look. So I went back to have a look, and they said, oh no, we are looking for people from diverse backgrounds. You're not just looking for famous poets. We're looking for people. So all of a sudden I began to think, oh, okay, maybe. So I applied. Now I didn't get it, but it made me realize, oh, wait a minute. Oh, no, no, I can be a poet in residence in truth. And then began to advertise myself as a poet in residence, right? And then like the retreat I was telling you about, I was there as a poet in residence. And so, but I couldn't have seen that that's the doors that would open if I just continued to dismiss the whole thing because I felt
Yeah.
that they're looking for this big thing. So it's just another example of how just take the first step. Just take that next step that you can,
Yeah.
because you don't know where the doors are going to open
Yeah.
and what's going to happen.
And you don't, and you said it's amazing now, when you actually take the step, and you it it's amazing where everything just aligns up itself.
Alignment again. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I remember when I was working as a mentor in primary school, and um, I was asked to. My head teacher was supposed to go and speak at the head teachers conference and everything, and she was unwell. And instead of asking her deputy head to go and speak about what was going on in the school, she asked me to go and speak.
Mm,
And when she asked me, I thought, oh my God, not me at a head teachers conference. I'm not even a teacher, not me. And I ruled myself out. And she said, Claudette, if I thought that you couldn't do this, I wouldn't have asked you. Because I'm asking you because half of what I'm going to talk about, you have implemented in this school. So
mm,
who is best to talk about it? It's you. And I did go, and I
mm.
did go and do. I did go and do the talk and everything. And the amount of emails that my head teacher got back, the feedback was just. I was reading the emails. I was thinking, I couldn't see that it was me.
Mm.
Why was I that good? Oh, was that really me? And I can't even tell you the amount of doors that opened.
Beautiful, isn't it?
It opened up so much doors, so many doors. It opened up.
It's beautiful. We're often the last to know. There was a piece I was thinking of writing something called The Last to Know. We're often the last to know how great and how awesome the gifts we have are.
Yeah,
We're often the last to know because to us, we've been conditioned to believe that for something to be great means we have to suffer to produce it. We've
yeah,
been conditioned to think that. But so whatever we do that comes natural to us because it's our gift, it's our ability, we
yeah,
tend to discount it and we lift up other people and go, that's
yeah.
this
Oh,
thing.
they're great. Oh, look at them and all that.
Yeah. So
You know.
yeah, it's not that's not uncommon. So again, this is where when we become more aware of our mind, recognize that our mind is the one who's downplaying our contribution and abilities and our ability to do things.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is the mind that's downplaying. Yeah.
Wow. Well,
Wow.
that was quite a journey that was. It's been such a
Okay.
pleasure spending this time with you. If
Yes,
I were to
thank you.
ask you, what is the biggest takeaway from today?
Um, how diverse creativity is.
I like that.